You're not just telling us what we want to hear.
No, sir, no way.
Because we just want to hear the truth.
Well, then I guess I am telling you what you want to hear.
Boy, didn't we just tell you not to do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then.
Podcast, the official podcast of geekbench.com. I'm Jimmy Sally, and with me are
Jake Wilbanks,
Justin Powell.
Also joining us today is the editor-in-chief of the site. Introduce yourself, special guest.
Matthew Legarreta.
Matt will be joining us today as we talk about our Quick Bites, which is a movie or TV show we want to recommend, and then we will discuss our predictions for this year's Oscar ceremony. And then after that, Matt will leave us as he has not seen the movie we are reviewing this week, which is Katheryn Bigelow's Zero Dark 30. But Matt, do you want to go ahead and tell us what your Quick Bite is?
Okay, yeah, mine is Dread, which I actually just recently saw, last night. And I heard about this movie a couple months ago, way back during Comic-Con. I heard it was really good. And I wanted to see it for a long time, but it didn't come anywhere near me, and because usually it really failed at the box office. But I saw it last night, and I enjoyed it. I think there were some problems that really held it back. And one of the big common things people say about it is how similar it is to The Raid, which I do agree, it's super similar. I don't blame any of the movies, because both were probably filmed around the same time, and none of them copied off the other one, but I think The Raid achieves certain things that just Dread doesn't. I think the action in Dread isn't nearly as good as the action in Raid, which isn't too much of a problem, I think, because I think in Dread, the actual story and the elements behind it, they're much more, they're more interesting than I think in The Raid. I love The Raid, and I love the action in that movie, but I don't think it has too much going for it in terms of story or in terms of that. But I think Dread has a much more interesting setting, much more interesting actors, and I think it's just a more interesting story, but I don't think the action overall is as good. And then it rushes to a very kind of, not confusing, but their ending. It didn't really wow me with the ending, which is kind of similar to The Raid, too. I don't think that movie really ended well either, but I know Justin's seen it. Any of you guys seen it? Or?
I've seen it, too. Jake, have you seen it?
Yeah, I was able to catch it last week, I believe.
What'd you guys think of it?
I really liked it. I saw it in theaters, and then I've sorry, I have a cold, and I've seen it since then on Blu-ray, and I've really enjoyed it both times. I agree with what you say about the ending. It's pretty much constant action for the start, and then the end. It ends with a cool shot, but it isn't really satisfying as much as an ending.
Yeah, I don't know if the slow-mo at the one hand, it's really cool, the slow-motion aspect, but I think it's kind of overplayed towards the later half of the film. I really hope they would do more with it than just show constantly, this is slow-motion happening right now, look how cool this is, rather than actually having it impact anything, really, so.
I'm a big fan of this movie. I mean, I wrote about it for Geekbench, but it's a film that, if you take any time to look at the production process, there's a lot of issues, rumors of the recuts and keeping the director out of the editing room. So I think for what it is, it's entertaining. I just rewatched it recently with my family, my parents, and they really got a kick out of it. And so I think if for a film that's not that much, for what it is, it's pretty good.
Yeah. You said you saw it too, Jake. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or?
Yeah, I caught it a couple weeks ago once it finally hit Blu-ray. I mean, I thought it was a really well-made action movie for what it was. Like you said, I mean, there are some sort of hiccups that you could see going on in production that you can see in the movie itself. But I thought the slow-motion shots were really well done. Carl Urban's really great in it. The ending, like y'all have already said, is, not the best in the world, but it gets the job done.
I just think it's good to have this, as a more truer version of the comic book. If any of you have ever seen the comic book's pretty much, this is what he is. He's this guy, this is his job, there's not much personality to him, and he just kind of goes about it in various ways. And I think, getting a truer version of this than what we saw with Stallone all those years ago, which was a horrible film, I think this is something that, you can appreciate now, and I think you may appreciate more further on later. And I mean, this movie actually was shot before The Raid, but I mean, the potential of the story being continued, unlike The Raid, is minimal. This movie bombed at the box office. It's making money on home video, but it's not making enough money on home video. Whereas, Garth Evans, the director of The Raid, talked about he's already getting stuff together for the Raid sequel. So I mean, for a self-contained story, I think it's entertaining. It's something that people can find and discover and enjoy.
Yeah, for me, that's really the sad thing about this movie is I loved all the universe building they have setting up, but we're never really going to see a sequel to it. And I think a sequel could be really great, but this is all good setup, but I don't think it really came together as well as I would have hoped. But sadly, we won't see a sequel.
So is there any other quick bites you want to talk about, Matt, or was that your only one?
That's my only one, really.
Okay, so Jake, what is your quick bite for the week?
This past week, I actually finally got around to seeing Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained, and I was absolutely blown away by the movie that I got to see. It was a movie that I went in with just extremely high expectations after doing our top 10 list a couple weeks ago, and just seeing all the glowing reviews from so many different critics that I knew I agreed with. So many times, I just it seemed like I would love the movie, and I really did. Just there are so many performances in the movie that were praised so much, but they're on another level, really. Samuel L. Jackson is, I'm convinced that very well could be the best performance he's ever given as Steven. Leonardo DiCaprio is terrific in the movie once he appears sort of in the second half of the movie. And Christoph Waltz, of course, is fantastic in the movie. Very well deserving of the Golden Globe win he got just last week for his acting work there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a movie me and Jerry will talk about on our top 10, and I too think that with so many strong supporting roles in that film, I think the better movie the Academy could have won with was Samuel L. Jackson over Christoph Waltz, because Waltz is someone who's very charming, comes off really, but the amount of hate and derision you have towards Samuel L. Jackson's character in Django Unchained just speaks to how good he is in the film. And so that was the one thing. That was maybe the one kind of snub that really kind of upset me the most.
Definitely. And, it's actually kind of surprising because I was watching that with my roommates last week, and, Samuel L. Jackson is an actor that's so noticeable in so many movies, but my roommates didn't even believe me. They were surprised at the fact that was Samuel L. Jackson when I pointed it out. So, I mean, he becomes this character.
What did everyone think of Jamie Foxx? Because he spends the first half playing one character, and then I think one of my only criticisms of the movie is there's a point where a big event happens between two characters, and then after that, Jamie Foxx starts playing it differently, and it might work well for some people, but it feels like after this event, he kind of starts playing Jamie Foxx. Like, there's a scene shortly afterwards where he's with Quentin Tarantino, who gives an awful performance, and Michael Parks. And in that scene, he's kind of just playing Jamie Foxx, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I get why his character would be different, but I feel like we didn't get a good enough transition between the two, different roles. Do either one of y'all agree?
I mean, this is a film that, this is Tarantino's first film without the editor he's used in every other film, and it's a film that everyone knows there's 3 hour and a 4 hour cut. So the transition may be because, the lack of transition may be because just an editing issue, but also I think, Jamie Foxx's character as Django is very much kind of learning what to do from Christoph Waltz, but then there's a separation that occurs between them after an event, and so at that point, Jamie Foxx has to become his own character, and the personality may come out that way. That's my possible understanding of why it's like that.
I mean, yeah, I understand from the script point. I feel like that may be on Jamie Foxx more than the movie. I feel like maybe he for the rest of the movie, I'm believing him as a character, and then for that part, it's kind of like that's Jamie Foxx. But that may just be me.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying too. I think I know the event that you're referring to, but it was a little startling for me because it is sort of a character shift there. It wasn't a huge draw for me, but I think on repeat viewings it may be something that I pay attention to more.
I think an interesting thing that despite being his movie, I think Django's the least interesting character in the entire film, and I don't think he really. I know he's supposed to come into his own by the end and stuff. I don't think he has really enough focus on him when all this other stuff is happening. You don't really get to know who Django is and why this big character evolution at the end. Why you're supposed to buy it. I really didn't. I agree with Jeremy. I didn't really buy it at the end either.
But maybe if we ever see the 4-hour cut, that'll change. But he's been saying the same thing about the Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair, and that hasn't happened. So. Who knows? But, Justin, what was your quick bite for the week?
I just want to talk about The Last Stand, not only as The Last Stand, but as, about the director Kim Ji-woon. And that, the movie is a bomb. It's bombed at the box office. But, in his review this week, Jake basically tore this movie up. But I don't think the movie is that bad. But I think it's a shame that this is the film that it's going to be introducing most of American audiences to Kim Ji-woon, who I think is a great director. I mean, I've often described him as kind of a Korean Tarantino because of his use of genre and how stylized he is. And I just think this is such a waste of his talent. And, I mean, a movie if you've ever seen his last two films before this would be either I Saw the Devil or The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, you see that this man has a lot of style, his panache, and just in this film it's kind of flat, and he's in this desert. And if you watch a movie like The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, you can see how much he can do with a desert setting with these kind of gorgeous fight sequences and camera angles, and it's kind of sad. This is what. This is the introduction most audiences are getting to. Most American audiences are getting to them.
And we've all seen The Last Stand, so do the three of us like it and Jake doesn't like it? Is that the agreement?
I like it a lot.
Okay. So I like it, but I won't defend it too heavily because it's a Schwarzenegger movie and it isn't really high cinema, but I enjoyed it for what it was and especially enjoyed the last half of it. There's a chase in a cornfield, especially, that is very well directed and is something different than you would expect from a movie like this.
Yeah, that's the one scene that has the most, as I was watching, it felt the most like something Kim Ji-woon would do. Have any of you have seen I Saw the Devil or The Good, the Bad, the Weird?
I'm completely blank in his filmography. I've not seen any of his movies. That's a big blind spot for me.
I actually watched I Saw the Devil and The Good, and the Bad, and the Weird the Wednesday before I saw The Last Stand as sort of a crash course on Kim Ji-woon, and loved both of them. Fantastic.
I haven't seen either of the two either.
Okay.
So, Jake, I know you have a review of it, but did you want to talk about the movie?
I will admit, y'all had both mentioned the cornfield chase just a second ago, and I will admit I did. That may be the best moment of the movie for me. I did find some enjoyment in that, but I mean I won't go on too much about it. It was just that it was, I guess my score towards the movie and I guess my hate towards the movie is more directed towards, or comes more from my disappointment in both Kim Ji-woon, his potential, and The fact that I really, really wanted a takeoff for Arnold Schwarzenegger. Again, something like how Liam Neeson had with Taken 3 years ago. I wanted the same kind of great, standalone action movie from Arnold, and it just wasn't there for me.
I just think this movie probably has a terrible script. I mean, from the moment the movie starts, he's the old guy who's been a tough guy, and then, but it's so formulaic. I mean, when the Native American guy throws him the keys, and he's like, make sure nothing happens to my car, at that moment we all know there's going to be a car chase. It's so rudimentary. I think that's where the film failed. I mean, there's not much you can do with this, but you see, like, as Jake can attest to, Kim Ji-woon can do something with a spare space, and I just don't think there's not much there to build on.
No.
Yeah, so I think overall we're mixed positive on The Last Stand. I think we'd all say you should at least give it a shot. Maybe I wouldn't say go and rush out to the theaters, but if it's on like TNT one day, you could probably spend an hour and a half.
The movie's completely ridiculous. There's so many things about it that don't make no sense. But I think if you're just sitting there in the afternoon and it comes on HBO, it's watchable. I may even pay $1 for it at the Redbox, but I mean, there's so many things that are disappointing about it.
Yeah, I would not recommend it as a rent.
So that is Justin's quick bite. My quick bite is, I've been watching a lot of comedy on TV. I've been watching that more than I've been seeing movies recently. You have 30 Rock, which is ending. You have Archer, which has just started, and the new Cartoon Network show, or Adult Swim show, Newsreaders, and they're all great. But I have been rewatching Arrested Development in lieu of its return this spring. Has everyone here or anyone here seen Arrested Development? I know Matt has. Have you seen it, Jake or Justin?
I actually started it late last year, and I'm slowly working my way through it as well.
Justin, have you seen it?
I'm starting it actually at Matt's behest. He told me I should. I mean, with the news that it's coming, what is it, May? The new episode's coming?
Yeah, like
it's rumored to come, yeah.
Mid-May.
I mean, it's only 50-something episodes at a half hour. So actually, last week I started watching it, and it's funny. I'm not there yet where everyone else is, but I'm only like 5 or 6 episodes in.
I'm at the point where I've already gone through it, maybe 2 times the entire run. So this time I'm just giving it a refresh before it comes back. And I mean, this is probably my favorite comedic show and one of my favorite shows of all time. I'm at the midway of season 2 right now, and most shows you see this radical improvement. Like the first season of shows like The Office and Parks and Rec aren't that good, and then from there they grow and become something completely different. But Arrested Development pretty much hit the ground running from its pilot and first season onward. I mean, it gets better, but it's not like what it started off with was bad. And, I mean, this is just one of the smartest television shows, ever. And, the reason why I brought it up was, not to get into any spoilers for, you two who haven't finished it and for anyone who hasn't seen it. But, these new episodes, the creator said he's going to have them, be like 1 or 2 people per episode, so it's not going to have everyone interacting. And that's been met with kind of a negative feedback, because people said, this is a show that thrives on characters bouncing off one another. But the way the show ends, if over the years the characters have stayed where they are when the show ends, I feel like you kind of have to reintroduce the characters to one another. So I feel like this is a good plan for the new episodes. Do you agree, Matt?
Yeah, I don't think it's as big an issue as people are making it. I don't think it'll be like just we have the one character and then he won't interact with anyone. Like I think they said that Michael would pretty much be in all the episodes. Like he'll be even at the end just to kind of bring it together. But I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as people think. I trust that ensemble, even separated. I think they're really strong actors who still make you laugh. So.
I mean, yeah, and like Michael especially, I mean, it makes sense he'd be the through line, because you kind of have characters that may need to be reintroducing themselves to others, depending on where the show is when this picks up.
I like how they're not just picking up the show with the whole group is together again, let's just see their shenanigans. There's actually like a build-up they're going to have to when they're all together on screen again.
Yeah, and this will air on Netflix in May. It is on Amazon, it is on iTunes, and I believe it's on Netflix Watch Instantly, right? Where you can watch the entire show on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, if anyone out there has not seen Arrested Development, get on it. It is a show that you need a marathon watch. It's not one you can just, like only watch a couple. I'd suggest, just streamlining it. It's probably the best way to watch it. But those.
Yeah, interesting about that show though is how good it is on repeat viewings. I think I've seen probably the entire run 3 times at this point. It just gets better every time. Like a lot of shows, they don't keep up the first time. The first time you watch it, it's like amazing, and the second time it's still good, but it's not as good. I think Arrested Development just gets better the more you watch it because you see more things. You see more things you never saw before. There's a lot of there's a lot of like callbacks and stuff like that you just don't notice until you get through it the first time.
I mean, yeah, like you have to wonder, did they plan everything out in advance? Because, there are things where, this had to have been planned out from the start. There are things in the pilot that come into effect, midway through season 3. So, I mean, it blows your mind, that thing, was all of this planned from the start? But, I don't know. But, those are our quick bites for the week. So we will go right into our discussion of the Oscar nominations. I'll list off the Best Picture and Director so we can, get into that, use that as our starting off point. The Best Pictures nominations are Amour, Argo, Beast of the Southern Wild, Django Unchained, Les Miserables, Life of Pi, Lincoln, Silver Linings Playbook, and Zero Dark 30. And for Director, you have Michael Haneke for Amour, Ben Zeitlin for Beast of the Southern Wild, Ang Lee for Life of Pi, David O. Russell for Silver Linings Playbook, and Steven Spielberg for Lincoln. So those are our Best Picture and Director nominees. I guess we'll start off, we'll go to each person. What from those two, do you think should be on there, shouldn't have been on there? And then do you have any snubs off those two? So we'll start with Jake.
I guess I'll go ahead and start with, a bit of a snub. I think it's incredibly surprising that, this year is the year that, I believe, I don't know if it's officially dedicated to Bond being like the 50th year of Bond or what exactly it is, but with all the talks of, Bond being this year at the Oscars, having all the past actors that have played Bond appear at the Oscars, I think it's incredibly surprising that we didn't have Skyfall nominated for Best Picture. Especially considering the fact that only 9 of the 10 slots were used for the Best Picture nominations. I could have sworn that Skyfall was going to make its way in there. Also, Moonrise Kingdom, a movie that I've not seen yet, but it seems like a movie like Moonrise is always finding its way onto the Oscar ballot. Also, I think, this has been talked about 1,000 times, but Ben Affleck's Oscar snub for Best Director on Argo, I thought it was really brave of the Golden Globes to give that to him just last week, give him that Best Director award, and that's going to be really interesting going into the awards, seeing who's going to end up taking that. As far as my pick for, what's going to win Best Picture, what's going to win Best Director, there's been a lot of talk that this could very well be Steven Spielberg's year for, that he's finally going to win Best Director and Best Picture for Lincoln. But to be honest, I'd just be really sad to see Lincoln be that movie for Spielberg that he finally wins his Oscar for. I do love Lincoln. I thought it was a great movie, but I think Spielberg has at least one more classic in it. I think he has one more Jaws, one more Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I don't think Lincoln is that classic. For the time being, I think my official say is going to be that Argo takes Best Picture at the end of the night, and maybe the Academy chooses to go with sort of a surprise, maybe Ben Zeitlin for Beast of the Southern Wild. for Best Director, or maybe give Spielberg the director nomination for Lincoln. But a lot of times, the tradition over the past couple of years has been giving Best Director and Best Picture to the same movie. So it's really tough. But I think Argo has it in the bag, or not in the bag, but is gaining some real steam right now.
And so, what are your thoughts on this, Matt? What do you think were the snubs and flubs, and who do you think is going to win? Probably.
I don't really see the Oscars deviating from their original formula. I think they're just going to give both Best Picture and Best Director to the same movie, and I don't think they've changed it since actually Spielberg and Saving Private Ryan. Is that right? Or
that's the last time it's happened.
Loved one that year, didn't it?
Yes.
Well, no. Schindler's List won Best Picture.
Well, no, I was saying that when they split it up, because didn't Spielberg win Best Director while Shakespeare in Love won Best Picture that year?
Yes, the 99 ceremony.
Yeah, and I seriously think that Spielberg's going to win for Lincoln, and then Lincoln's going to win Best Picture. And it's really sad that the Oscars didn't nominate Affleck. I think if Affleck got nominated, I think it would be Argo versus Lincoln, and I don't think anyone would be able to determine which one would win. It would go, some people would say Argo, some people would say Lincoln. It would actually be a competition, but it seems the Oscars never likes that, because every year there's always a big front runner, and I think Lincoln just totally has in the bag.
What are your thoughts on this, Justin?
Well, I mean, there's several things. I don't like the system they use, where you have to get a certain number of votes to be nominated. I think it should either be 5 or 10, and I mean, I was a big fan of Skyfall, and I mean, the only film that I would not here, it's a film that I kind of don't like, would be maybe Beasts of the Southern Wild. I mean, I'm going to finally get the chance to see more this week. So, I mean, I'll finally see what that's all about, but, I mean, Les Mis is a film that, I mean, I know Jake liked, but I just never... It got interesting, and so I feel like if you're gonna do it, have the 10, and then just put either in a Moonrise Kingdom or a thing. But the interesting thing is, I was reading an article last night. I believe Argo took the Producers Guild Award, and then tonight maybe the Screen Actors Guild, where they're saying that could go to Silver Linings Playbook, and they're saying Spielberg could win the DGA, and so this may be a 3-film race between Argo, Lincoln, and Silver Linings Playbook. I think what's going to end up happening is, you may have Silver Linings Playbook take some acting awards. Argo actually may win Best Picture, but not Best Director. I mean, because it can, and I think that may go to Spielberg. So this is the first year in a long time that I think it may be an open race. As to the Best Director category, I mean, they decided to put Amour in with the best. I mean, they rarely generally put the foreign films in with that, but they decided Amour was a film that they wanted to put up for Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Picture, aside from being Best Foreign Film. And so, I mean, you can't knock Michael Haneke. I do like Life of Pi and Ang Lee, so, I mean, that's a finalist. So, I mean, the only knock for me would be Zeitlin over a Bigelow or even a Ben Affleck. I'm not, I mean, as I said, I'm not the biggest Argo fan, but Zeitlin, I mean, a first-time nominee for that. It's a film that I don't think the direction is the strongest thing in it. And I mean, I don't like the film, but I don't think the direction is the strongest part of it.
My thoughts on all this, I actually haven't seen that many of the nominees. Last year I'd seen every single one of the nominees for Best Picture and Best Director. This year I've only seen 5 of the Best Picture nominees, and I've only seen 1 of the movies that the Best Director is nominated for, and that's Lincoln. I am with Justin here, though, that I don't think it's that open of a race, and I don't think that Lincoln kind of just has it in the bag yet. This time last year it was The Artist was obviously going to win. The year before that it was The King's Speech, but people had hopes for The Social Network. But, this year, if I, gun to my head, had to pick, I'd say Lincoln has a good chance at it. But, I really don't know. It could be Argo. I think it could be Beast of the Southern Wild. And it could be Silver Linings Playbook. So now it could be either 4 of those films. I'm most surprised that, like a couple months ago, even, a week before the Oscar nominations came out, Zero Dark 30 was the front runner. It was, this is going to be Katheryn Bigelow's year. She's going to, win twice now for the Hurt Locker and for this. And then that just got shut out of nominations. So, it's very interesting. We'll get into Zero Dark 30 later, but that is my biggest snub, Bigelow for director. And I'm very surprised that now just seems out of the running. Like, Argo could still win Best Picture even though Affleck's not nominated, but I don't think Zero Dark 30 has a chance anymore. As for snubs, I'd say I'm very surprised, like Jake said, that Moonrise Kingdom isn't in Best Picture. I'm very surprised to see how well Amour and Life of Pi did. I don't think anyone expected those two to do as well as they did, especially since Amour is already in the foreign film, Best Foreign Film that already is nominated for once there. But those are my thoughts on it. If anyone else had anything they want to say.
I will say, real quickly, I will say I'm not surprised that Beast of the Southern Wild is not nominated because three out of the last 4 films that have won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance have been Best Picture nominees, which probably bodes well for the movie that won last night, Fruitville. So, Precious, Winter's Bone, I think they seem to want to recognize an indie film that is successful and American, so I'm not surprised that it's in there.
All right, Jake, what were you going to say?
I'm sorry. I thought, you mentioned Katheryn Bigelow's snub for Best Director. I actually forgotten about that. But that seems like almost the most insulting of the Best Director snubs. Even more so than the Ben Affleck snub. Because, we will get into this later, but, looking at Zero Dark 30 and how much of a change that movie went through in its own production and how much work obviously went into the research and just the amount of time that was obviously spent getting that movie made, it's just remarkable. And I think it's a real darn shame that she wasn't that she didn't get the nomination there.
Okay. So let's do this. Let's say we'll go through the same order and say if you could pick, what would be your Best Picture, Director, Actor, Actress? We'll start off with you, Jake.
Just go through all nominations, or pick my picks for each one of those? Just,
top 4, the picture, director, then actor and actress.
For Best Picture, I'm, officially saying Argo is my own guess for what's going to take that. I think they'll end up showing the favor to Spielberg for Best Director. For Best Actor, that's pretty much Daniel Day-Lewis's game, wrote all over it. And for Best Actress, I think it's going to be an extremely close race between Clavin Zane Wallace and Jessica Chastain. But I really think it's going to go with Jessica Chastain for Zero Dark 30.
All right, and Matt?
As I already said, I think Lincoln's going to get Best Picture, Spielberg's going to get Director. Daniel Day-Lewis has Best Actor in the bag, too. And I think for Best Actress, I'm going to go with Jessica Chastain, too, because I think the Academy will want to give something to Zero Dark 30, even though they won't give it Best Picture Director, apparently, but they'll give it something.
And Justin?
I think out of that group, Spielberg's got it locked up for Director. I think it's going to be between Silver Linings Playbook and Lincoln for Best Picture. Lincoln's not going to surprise me. Daniel Day-Lewis has it locked up. Daniel Day-Lewis has it locked up for Lincoln. And I think it's between Jennifer Lawrence and Jessica Chastain. But 9 times out of 10, the Academy's going to go with drama over comedy. So I would say Jessica Chastain. Although I will say Emmanuel Rivera is getting a lot of love. And the Academy is very sentimental and likes to go with older actresses. So I wouldn't be surprised if she snuck in there for more. But it's basically between Chastain and Lawrence, and I got to give the nod to Chastain.
I've already said mine. I'll say, Spielberg for Lincoln, Spielberg for Director, Lincoln for Best Picture, and Daniel Day-Lewis for Actor. For actress, I would say Chastain, like, most of you have. But, last year, Viola Davis was in the bag for The Help. Was that last year, or am I off?
Yeah, that was.
Okay. And then, everyone predicted her. I'm pretty sure she won every award before the Oscars. And then Meryl Streep got it for The Iron Lady. And that was, a very big shock. No one expected her to win. So, I would not be surprised if Emmanuel Riva or, I'm not sure how to say this, Quinzine Wallace, it's a very hard name to say, but I would not be surprised if one of those two got it, just because, they've been hyping it. This is the oldest Best Actress nominee and the youngest Best Actress nominee in the same race. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to make it about that and give it to one of them. But, we will find out one of the Oscars the 24th of February.
Next Sunday.
No, I don't think so. Let me look.
They're February 3rd, next Sunday.
85th Academy Award nominate.
24th.
24th. Okay. Yeah, February 24th. Next week's the Super Bowl. Yeah.
I really messed that up.
You got your football and your movies mixed up.
I'm excited that I finally get to see This Is Not a Film next Sunday, so I guess that's why I associated that with movies, I guess. But
we will find out who wins then. I'm not sure if we'll do an Oscars episode, because I think that would have been talked out and talked to death by the time we'd release an episode. But those were our thoughts and the predictions and the snubs and flubs and all of that kind of stuff. And I think from there we're going to have to let you go, Matt, for us to talk about 0 Dark 30. So thank you for joining us in the show. Do you want to tell people where they can find you online and your Twitter and all of that?
Oh, yeah, obviously you can find me at GeekBinge. I'm writing over there. And then you can follow me on Twitter and the site itself on Twitter at twitter.com/geek_binge.
All right, well, thank you for joining us to talk today, Matt. We'll have you on in the future.
All right, I had a good time.
All right, thanks.
All right.
And now we're going to move on to our review of Katheryn Bigelow's 0 Dark 30.
Can I be honest with you? I am bad news. I'm not your friend. I'm not going to help you. I'm going to break you. Any questions?
Now, this was a film that originally started out as a movie about how the operation to find bin Laden failed. And then right before production, right before it was about to be made, bin Laden was found, and Katheryn Bigelow pretty much had to turn this movie on a dime into a movie about how it was found. So let's just, it's very impressive that she was able to, turn it in on a dime like that and give us this movie. Let's just go around and say whether or not we feel she was successful. We'll start off with you, Jake.
Yeah, I definitely think she was really successful. Now that you mentioned that, you can definitely see like traces in the movie where it was originally maybe panned as that. But I'm absolutely in love with this movie and what Bigelow was able to accomplish with it. I've had the chance to see it twice now, and both times it is an absolute nail biter all the way through, especially. Last hour, things just really, things get so tense. I was sitting on the edge of my seat, literally. I know people say that all the time, but literally on the edge of my seat, just so tense with knowing, everything that's going to happen. But that's a testament to how Bigelow is able to build tension slowly, grind tension throughout the whole first hour and a half of the movie, and just allow it to play in that last half. And it's really a testament to her filmmaking ability. It's a testament to Jessica Chastain's brilliant performance in the movie, and a testament to fantastic work all around.
I already got to speak on this film a little bit because it was my number 2 film of 2012. It's just, this is a remarkable film about something so important, but, you would think, and at first there were fears that a dramatization of such an important event in American history would fall flat, but, Bigelow is a master director, and you've got a brilliant screenplay by Mark Bowles. So this is exactly what it needs to be. I mean, as I spoke in the other podcast, that it was great that she was managed to turn around the fact that they were going to make this movie about the failed attempt to get Bin Laden and Tora Bora, and then when he dies, they just kind of rushed this to production. And kind of the most amazing thing is this film feels so authentic. I mean, Bigelow went to India and has that doubling as Pakistan. So you've got a very kind of the regional look is perfect. I mean, the people in India were mad that it was doubling in Pakistan, but you get a real grittiness and a real realness from that. And as I said, we have possibly our best actress winner in Jessica Chastain leading this film about a woman who just is so dedicated over a decade to getting this man. And someone who really doesn't get the proper play and respect they're getting is, I think, Jason Clarke does brilliant work in the film also. And so, I mean, you got two very strong performances and just brilliant action sequences. I mean, we'll talk about, the final half hour, the raid on the comet in Abbottabad. But, I mean, the whole thing is just kind of breathtaking to watch. And it feels like when it's over that you've watched something important. Because, I mean, we're all at the age that we were there. We remember 9/11, and then we remember the day that Bin Laden dies. And it feels like there's a cathartic moment at the end of it, and you're reliving that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything that's been said so far. Especially, I was going to bring up, and then you brought up Jason Clarke's performance. It's probably, about the first hour of this movie is his more than it is Jessica Chastain's, really. And, I mean, he's doing something you should probably hate him for, but yet you don't hate him. Like, you see why he's doing everything. You see this humanity, even though he's, doing these awful things to people. And then, later, once he leaves, it becomes Jessica Chastain's movie. And, she completely makes it her own. The things she's saying, like, there's especially one line she says to a person, like, all the scenes with her and James Gandolfini and Kyle Chandler and all these, higher up officials. It isn't a movie about this is a woman in a workplace. It isn't like this is the woman who found Bin Laden. It's more this is a person who found Bin Laden. This isn't a rah-rah, girl power movie like I feel like a lot of detractors have tried to make it out to be. This is just a person who found Bin Laden. It doesn't matter that, she was a girl. It just matters that this is a person who devoted all of her life pretty much straight out of high school to finding Bin Laden, and then she was able to find him, and, we're following her along the entire way. This is a very long movie, and I feel you could make the argument that it's a little too long. I don't really think it is, because I feel like there is a point right about over halfway into the movie where you might start to get a little bored, and that's right where they introduce a lead, and right once we're about to go find Bin Laden, right after they introduce there's a possibility that we found him, I mean, you're on the edge of the seat for the rest of the movie, and then once you get to the actual raid to finding Bin Laden, I mean, that is some of the, that's, you could call it an action scene, and I wouldn't really argue with you that much about it, but it is more a suspense scene than anything else, because it's just heightened suspense the entire time. And you have these night vision cameras, you have, you're hearing creaking on footsteps of people, popping out from behind walls, and it's all just so well done. And, the movie leaves you with, very subtly asks you a question, and I feel like, you could argue what the answer to that question is all day long, but, overall, this is not the Killing Bin Laden movie, this is the Finding Bin Laden movie.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really kind of poignant about the movie. On a second viewing, the first time I watched through the movie, it's almost easy to get sort of bogged down in all of these names and all of these different associations to Bin Laden. Obviously with a lot of the characters being Middle Eastern descent, the characters' names are hard to pronounce, or they all sort of the names sound similar. So it is a little easy to get sort of bogged down in that, but on the second playthrough, it's so much clearer and it's so much sharper, and you do feel like you're hopping to each point so much quicker. But, really, like, my takeaway from the movie was that, from the very first moment that the movie opens on these 9/11 calls, and these people making calls from within the compound, or within the World Trade Center, and, you go from that immediately into these, torture scenes, of us trying to, frantically almost trying to find out the answers. And, the whole movie's about purpose. It's about how far are you willing to go to get the thing that you want? As a country, as a CIA agent, as whoever. And I think, it conveys that message so well, so beautifully, that, this woman spends, 10 years of her life, basically, trying to find this one man in the middle of the desert. And it's so powerful once you get to that final moment with the movie, realizing how far she's went and seeing her own realization as to how far she's gone, how many people she's interacted with, to get to that point.
I actually want to kind of disagree with Jeremy on something, that I don't think the film does feel well. I feel like it's supposed to be grueling because what this person had to go through is grueling. I mean, the lead is good, then the lead is bad, and repeat, and kind of, the endurance that it required to find this man who was the unfindable man. And I think that, is just another testament to Katheryn Bigelow's brilliant direction. That what I think the film could have led, it didn't. And so I would say that the best thing you can say about this movie, that is 2 hours and 35 minutes long, is that I never once felt bored.
I wasn't saying as a negative as much as in the middle, there's a lot of scenes of just her sitting at her desk, with her head in her hands. There's a scene in particular where she's using a marker to show you how much time has passed, and right then, I was never bored, but I was certainly, I was in the same boat as the character, where I'm like, when are we, she's ready for a call, she's ready for a go get Bin Laden, and, by then you as the audience are ready for that too. But right after that happens, right after you go and you start meeting SEAL Team 6, it is like a brand new movie. I mean, especially since during that time you pretty much say goodbye to Jessica Chastain's character for the rest of the movie. She shows up in the end, but for that raid, you are not cutting back to her watching everything happen. You are with these new group of characters, and with a new group of characters, I wanted to point out some of the performances, which is another high point of the movie. Chris, I'm blanking on his name now, from Parks and Rec.
Chris Pratt.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Chris Pratt, it's so easy to look at him and just think, this is Andy from Parks and Rec, on this mission, and it's not. He is, very convincing in his role. You have Joel Edgerton as another SEAL Team 6 member who is terrific. And, there's all these, whenever you cast all these great actors, you could sometimes have this person was wasted, this person was wasted. No one's really wasted in this movie. Even James Gandolfini and Kyle Chandler, they're not in it that much, but, you don't feel like, wow, would you cast this person, the same person, for only a few lines? They make the best out of it, and they're in it just enough for you to, say that's a great performance, and they weren't wasted. This is a movie full of fantastic performances, especially her friend. I think she's played by, is it Jennifer Eel? Is that the... Ely, that's it. Yeah. Did either of y'all want to touch on any of the performances you in particular found good?
Yeah, I'd like to repeat the sentiments for Jason Clarke, who really does do a great job as one of the assistants. Maybe he does a terrific job, and Mark Duplass is in the movie, Frank Grillo. So many just really talented people that have small roles, but they really make the most of them.
I would say again about Jason Clarke, one of the things to go with it is, one of the hardest things for an actor is accent work, and the man's accent is perfect. because he's not American. I believe he's Australian, if I'm correctly. And so, I mean, just when you often find that, you know, Australian and English actors will kind of lose it a little bit when they're yelling a lot. But Jason Clarke holds up strong. And so I think, I mean, that's really something that's a great testament to how well he did it. But as I was going to say, SEAL Team 6 members had a lot of personality, but and I think that's good, because these guys who have maybe the most stressful job in the world, and they need to go into the most dangerous places, but you know, they like to have fun, cracking jokes. I just think that's great casting for smaller roles. I mean, as we said, Chris Pratt, Joel Linton, his brother Nash is in there. Another actor whose name is currently escaping me, who has been doing a lot of good work recently, was also among the group. And so I think they are a smaller part of the movie, but what they did is so important that I think it's really great that they kind of portray these guys who, you know, you have to root for, even though they're put in a situation where they're having their guns pointed at children, but it holds up. And I think that's good. Frank Grillo was the guy I was saying is one of the commanders of the SEAL teams. So yeah, I mean, that is really mostly all I gotta say. I mean, I also like Mark Strong as kind of this boss that is endlessly unlikable, but I mean, is still trying to get this job done too.
And I'll kind of wrap up my thoughts too with this. This isn't really a spoiler, but you know, everyone knows that, you know, at the end of this scene, Bin Laden dies. He gets shot, and I was very curious how they were going to show him getting shot. You know, this is all from their perspective, so you weren't about to get a slow motion shot of the bullet entering his head or anything. But, you know, I was very curious how they would portray it, and I was very impressed. You know, you never get a clear look at him. You get, you know, these quick little flashes. There is a scene in particular, and I felt like this is on purpose, that, you know, she doesn't want you to revel in, you know, seeing him get shot or seeing his dead body. There's one scene where you see these quick flashes of someone taking a picture, and I feel like this is very purposeful, because you want to look and you want to see in the reflection, and then, you know, like, not in the reflection, in the camera. And I felt that was a very good choice from Bigelow, because, you know, this is something you want to see, and she's not giving it to you. She's like, no, I'll let you see this raid. I'm not going to let you see these, you know, horrible pictures of him being shot.
I mean, one thing I would say is, this is a strong movie when possibly the best scene in the movie is the very end. I mean, she's on the plane, and the question is asked of her, where do you want to go? And the look on her face, I think, is the best acting I saw all year.
I completely agree. You know, and it holds on her just long enough before cutting to black. You know, it's a terrific moment of holding just long enough before ending. You know, for you to, you know, like, is she going to answer? And of course she doesn't. But it holds just long enough to give you that extra, you know, look. Is there any closing thoughts you wanted to say, Jake? Or
yeah, I think my favorite moment of the movie is very much either that last scene on the plane, or it's that scene right after the shot is taken on Osama bin Laden, and they're working their way back through the compounds. And you see, you have all these children, you have these soldiers that are sort of reacting to, you know, this huge task that they've just accomplished. But, you know, and the shot lingers on these children. You just hear them crying, and it all, like, after you've, you know, accomplished this huge thing, it comes right back to that question of, look what you've had to done to get to that point. Look what you've had to, look at how these people are reacting to it. Coming back to the idea of purpose, and it's that moment where you take a step back to look at what you, this goal that you've accomplished, and it's almost chilling. It's haunting to see the look on these soldiers' eyes, and realizing what they've done and what they've accomplished. So,
I think that will end our thoughts on Zero Dark 30. It is in theater.
I have one quick question.
Okay.
Now that you guys seen this, this was my number 2 film, where would this film have ended up on your list?
This would have been my number 1. I feel awful for having it, not being able to see it. This would have been my number 1 movie of the year.
For me, this would have been either a very, very close number 3 or very, very close number 2. Maybe a number 1. It would have been in the top 3 somewhere. It's really tough to say, though.
Alright.
But, yeah, so, you can tell just from hearing that it would have been our number 2s or number 1s how upset we are that Bigelow was snubbed at the Oscars. But, and also, real quick before we end, one other snub was Alexandre Desplat's score for the movie. He's had a fantastic year. He was also snubbed for Moonrise Kingdom. But, Elise Chastain got nominated. I feel like Clark should have got nominated too. But at least it's in Best Picture and has done well at other things. So it wasn't completely shut out of awards in general. But those will end.
It's also a movie that's being really well received by audiences. I know in my screening of the movie, which was a week after it had hit its wide release, the theater was full, absolutely full of people. Just talking to people here back at school, there are several people that have seen it and several that love it. I haven't talked to anyone that didn't like it.
My screening was packed too. It's done very well at the box office. I think whenever it opened up, the wide release was number 2. And then I'm not sure how it's been for this week's top 10, but it's done very, very well at the box office, which is very good to see.
I will say that the people supporting this film was also locked out of technical award because Greg Fraser's cinematography during the raid sequence is incredible, switching between the pitch blacks and the night vision and all that, and the sound mixing. Is also something, because it's got very vibrant sounds for this big moment. So, this is a film that I think should have got some more technical recognition than it got.
But I feel this is going to be a movie that will probably be remembered regardless of its award nominations. At least I hope it will. But that will end our thoughts in Zero Dark 30 and our episode. We will be back on February 18th. Talking about the Die Hard series, reviewing Die Hard, A Good Day to Die Hard, that's a very dumb title, and talking about some other stuff that we will determine before then. So, I guess we'll wrap up telling everyone where to find us. Start off with you, Jake.
You can find me on Twitter, at Jake Wilbanks, and I am writing for Geek Binge.
You can find me at Mr. Justin Powell, Mr. Justin Powell. I also am a writer at GeekBinge.com.
And you can find me at GeekBinge, and you can find my Twitter at Jeremy Solly. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Screen Bites podcast. If you're listening to this on the site, you can subscribe to us in iTunes. Just search Screen Bites. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, send us an email at screenbites@geekbinge.com. Thank you for joining us.
I will say real quickly, we're new to this podcast thing, but they always tell them get those reviews in there because then we go up the charts and we get some attention. So let's get some reviews in there, people.
Yeah, definitely. If you're listening to this, just go to iTunes and leave us a review. It can be a good review. It can be a not good review. We would prefer that, obviously, but just to know that you're listening. But the music this week comes. It is Nothing Else Matters by Scala and the Kalakny Brothers. It's a very hard to pronounce name. That is from a trailer for Zero Dark 30, and they are famous for their cover of Creep from the Social Network trailer. So go get that song. It's very great, and it's very well used in the Zero Dark 30 trailer. But that wraps us up for this episode of the Screen Bites podcast. Thank you for listening, and we're out.